Hey, everybody. Thank you for tuning in to another interview on the Art of Intervention Project Summit. Today, we get to hear from Scott Graham at Carefrontations. Scott and we've actually done an interview before. I love how he handles the family system and what he and his wife, Jenny, do at Carefrontations. And he's just a sought after interventionist and changing families' lives across the country. So, Scott, thanks for joining us today.
It's so good to be here, Rob. Thanks for having me. Really appreciate the opportunity to share.
Yeah, definitely. So when people ask you, they say, Scott, who is Scott Graham? How do you respond to that?
I'm a professional interrupter. I like to interrupt dysfunction, and but before I do, I love to educate. I feel like I'm an educator. I'm pretty good at facilitating, and it feels like you're kind of in a therapeutic experience, but it's not therapy. So even though I am licensed as a CD chemical dependency counselor, not my passion.
Yeah, for sure. And you, 'cause again, you're a professional interventionist, so we're going to talk about kind of the misconceptions of an intervention.
Good.
But like, what really is an intervention?
It's my style. First, it feels kind of like a surprise party, and of course, like a surprise, it's over very quickly, and then it starts to feel like a glorified or more intense family meeting that like most families would have, but it's being facilitated by an objective person. That'd be me. And then it starts to feel like you're at a really tender funeral where not everybody's sobbing out of control. They're deep in their emotion, and yeah, there's tears, but no one's out of control, being left bleeding to death. And then it feels like you're watching this amazing life birth take place. And for those who have witnessed birth, not given birth, but witnessed birth, like probably you and I, right? It's second to that. It really is. It is such the amazing, tender, authentic, transparent, time stops kind of moment. Uh, so I love it.
That does not sound like the typical intervention that people think of. And obviously, it's the way that you do them, the way you've been trained, the way that um, things are downloaded to you on how to help families.
Yeah.
And talk to people about like, what do people kind of expect during an intervention? Just let's just call it. I mean, is there such thing as like a typical intervention?
Well, for me, there is. And typically it was just what I said, surprise, meeting, birth, or death and birth. And I'm glad to say that the not so typical is what people think, where the person reacts, they run away, it gets crazy. There's verbal, posturing, if not downright abuse, and the person doesn't go. I mean, that's what people think it's going to be. And I've had so many people who I've helped, families, but a person who's involved who says, "Boy, I've been in intervention more than once, and this was nothing like that." Or I remember Jenny saying she had a gal that she intervened on, and there was another person who intervened on her, and she says, "I want a do-over. I want mine to be like this."
Wow. Hey, that's a great compliment right there.
Yeah. It's so funny because that's really what we combat the most is that misconception that either the participants have or or what the person obviously doesn't know is coming their way. But I have had so many people who I've intervened on as I'm taking them to treatment because 9 out of 10 for us say yes, which is wonderful to report. And it's not because we're so wonderful, it's because good people rescue good people. That's really why it's that effective. But I've had people say, I have never, ever heard my family say those words ever. And I can't think of a better way to do this. And I mean, even like right now, I get goosebumps because it's like, oh, those are goosebump moments. It's like, oh, you get it. You really get the spirit behind what we did here. So that's always fun.
I love goosebump moments. So
Yeah.
why do you care?
Because I struggled once back in the day. I mean, like so many of us who are in the industry, we're in recovery or we have a loved one who struggled and we're part of that fabric of the recovery. But, I had the most amazing law enforcement career back in the 80s. I worked undercover in vice narcotics for the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department. And I worked in West Hollywood, which was the highest crime rated area per capita in all of LA County back in the day. And so I was an up and comer. I was in my 20s. I was good at what I did because I had started using drugs and drinking like too many youths do. And so I had that knowledge and experience. So it was pretty easy to spot the ones who were involved like I once was, but I lost everything. And that's another story for another day. But uh, I just knew that people don't have to hit the bottom that I hit. They don't have to lose their job. They don't have to lose their marriage. They don't have to lose darn near everything. And so many people lose their lives to boot. And we've been on this crusade, for 32 years now.
And you do hear that term bottom line a lot, but why is there kind of a sense of urgency when people call you and they're calling you because there's a crisis moment or a big decision to be made, but why is there really a sense of urgency when contemplating an intervention?
Well, usually it follows a crisis. Like you said, there's something that happened, whether it's a fight or a really intoxicated, moment. Job is at jeopardy. The wife or the husband is ready to leave. It's like people wait until it's so late in the story, which really makes for a harder intervention. It makes for a tougher treatment experience because there's more, history to unpack and work through. And it just really highlights us as a people. We are, number one, a crisis driven people. We only change when it's broken, like, right, if it's not broke, don't fix it, kind of thing. And it amazes me too that there's so much fear that people live in. Fear of the unknown, fear of I might get rejected, fear of will he or she go. And it's really a sad reality. And then of course we negotiate, we think of, is it the right time? And my experience has been that you're never going to find the perfect time. There's always going to be something that's waiting for the person to do or somebody from the team to do. And what I tell, like I'm talking to usually the mover and shaker, the one who's going to play, be point person. And I tell that person, do not try to manage everybody's schedule because you'll never do it. You'll go crazy. You want people who you contact who literally say to you, you tell me what time and where to be, I'm in, without any pushback at all. Because if you feel like you're swimming upstream, you get out of that river and go find another stream to go play in, because you just want the ones who are, Johnny on the spot, as we call it. And those who are going to be there are the ones that are supposed to be there. I've learned that too. So it shouldn't be this terrible, hard, just pressing time to put it all together. It really should flow pretty smoothly once you say, okay, I'm doing this.
I can imagine some other family members when they get called are like, oh, thank goodness I'm ready. Like, let's do this. I know Billy, Fred, Sarah, Mike, Kim, whomever actually needs that help. So talk to people that they want to make that call, right? They made that call to you. They're on the phone. What can they expect in that initial 15, 20, 30 minutes, hour with you when they call?
Well, I probably err on the side of over explaining because I put myself in their shoes. And if I'm going to spend, typically interventions will be a few, if not more, thousands of dollars. It's a higher ticket item, not as much as treatment, of course, but still a good old chunk of money. And if I was calling inquiring, I would really want to know what this entails, because it's not like I'm going to buy a car. I can kick the tires, I can test drive it. It's like it's a pretty big decision for such a large amount of money. And so I really try to give people a sense. I do it in a hypothetical. Once I have listened enough, in my opinion, that they know that I care. I really want to know. But because I'm not doing therapy, I'm not going to be doing the evaluation. I really don't need the whole backstory. I try to get the person to agree that the person they're concerned about has a problem bigger than them, and it's bigger than you. And if we can agree upon that, it's like, okay, now let's look at the bridge we've got to build to get them where they need to go. And so I take them on a journey. I say, let's just do this hypothetically. And so I say, okay, let's pretend we're going to do it. And we've got the treatment program lined up. And so I take them on that journey of what they have to do the next step. We have a checklist page on our Carefrontations website that really gives them a systematic, chronological, step-by-step process of what's next. That way nobody's overwhelmed. You do what you've got to do. And so it takes about a half an hour for me to explain, here's what putting the team together looks like, the treatment together looks like, putting the scenario together for where we're going to prepare, where we're going to do the intervention, how we're going to set that up, the transport to treatment, the whole 9 yards. And I'll tell you, when I intervened on my daughter 17 years ago now, when she was 21, when I was done with that experience, I said to myself, boy, this is harder than I'm telling people it is. There's a lot of work to this. I mean, I spent 3 days, literally all day long till like I was done trying to put together the treatment, working with insurance. Putting the team together was no problem. You know, getting the flight to go down and do what we did. It was really the treatment piece that was the most cumbersome process. Because if there's insurance, you know, are they on a preferred provider list, and you know, all that stuff. So but we walk people through the whole 9 yards. We let people know there's no obligation for us to talk. You know, we don't go everywhere we're invited. We go where we're sent. So that way there's a mantle, even an anointing that goes with us. And I think that's a big reason why we've had the success that we've had too.
Yeah, well, you mentioned that 9 out of 10 people or so go, which is amazing success. Because I think a lot of people watching, listening right now, believe that, well, if I do this, there's a high probability they're not going to go. So why even try?
Yeah, and that's and that happens because people base everything that could be on everything that has been, and so they're limited on how optimistic they can be because they have so much history typically. But I want to step back before I get into that and just share a really quick story about the whole timing. When is it the right time? And to me, it's never too late as long as the person's still alive, and it's never too early. And so I'm reminded of I did an intervention on a woman who was in her 60s, and we prepared like we always did the day before. It's usually a 6-hour event, and I had the daughter go over just to set up the next day, saying, "Hey, I'm coming over tomorrow. I'm going to bring the kids, the grandkids. They want to see you," kind of a thing. So help her not drink when we got over there. And so she got over there early without the kids, of course, and got her prepared in a sense where she's just sitting down on the living room couch. And we walk in. I do it the same method as I did when I was an undercover cop. I don't, when you think about it, when a policeman or narcs, when we break doors down, we don't knock her loud and go, "Hi, this is the police. Let us know when you're ready, and we'll come in." We surprise people. So I have always utilized that element of surprise because it helps you control the beginning of the situation. And usually it maintains throughout the whole intervention. So just like typically is normal, we walked in and everybody gave her a hug and a kiss, and she greeted everybody, and I introduced myself and told her what we were going to do and asked her to just allow everybody to read their letters, and then we'll talk a little bit. And she said, "Sure, no problem." So we had people read on bended knee, so it's really tender. And it really is a tender moment. People just, I've seen so many tears and snot and all that. It's just, that's why I love it so much, because it's so authentic. But anyway, she says yes, and everybody is just elated, and we're kind of enjoying that moment. She says, I'll be right back. And normally I like to have people walk with a person, in case there's they're going to do drugs or there's whatever. You just never know. But this was they're in her 60s, and she walks out of her room and she's got a gun in her hand, but the cylinder is open. So I knew it wasn't a threat immediately. And she walks up to me and she's like going to dump the bullets. I cut my hand and I catch the 6 bullets. And she looks at me and the rest of the team. She's like, I didn't know how much I was loved. Today after lunch, I was going to kill myself.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
Yeah. And I've had that happen a number of times. I kid you not. And so it's like, that's why we never want to wait. We never want to wait. That's my big frustration. I talk to somebody, they need us, they've got the resources, and they wait and they wait. And we've had the calls before where the person says, "We can't do it. They died last night." And it's like, "Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry." And what I'm thinking also is, I'm glad I'm not you, because now I've got to live with that. If I want to feel guilty, I could have done something I didn't, side of the thing. So, back to your question on, why would somebody want to do this given the expense, the emotional expense, if I don't think they're going to go? And so again, what I tell people is, okay, here's your first challenge. Let go of what Johnny or Janie is going to think, say, feel, or do. You just remove that from the equation, because all that will do, if you think about that, is freeze you, cause anxiety, stress you out, and it's not yours to actually own. And I say that because you think about what the intent is here. We are doing this for them, not to them. Our intent is pure. There is no fear in that perfect love, right? And you're all love them. That's why you're doing this. So let him or her be responsible for what they think, say, feel, or do. And it's enough on any given day just to be responsible for what you think, say, feel, or do. That's enough.
Yeah.
And it really helps people just kind of I even said, like, pretend if it was Christmas and they were the little child and you got this amazing gift. You could not wait until they saw it, let alone play with it. And of course, your letter and your time and your love is that gift that you're giving them. And it's theirs to do what they want with it, or it wouldn't be a gift, right? So,
What a great visualization and perspective to give people, I think, a different view of what this can really look like, is a beautifully orchestrated moment to say, hey, we're unified and we love you. Here we
yeah.
are. And the
Well,
fact
it's
that
there to shrink that front.
you teach them you coach your clients, to the family, to kneel. It really sounds like you take the entire family into consideration during this process.
Well, it's so important to, um, for the family to understand. It's like our responsibility to speak our truth in a loving, caring way, in a way where it can be received, because we know people in dysfunction, no matter what the dysfunction is, they tend to be highly volatile, they tend to be defensive, they do the classic cut and run them out of here, so if they don't want to hear it, they're gone. All these normal things that are just, they're classic. I mean, this is such a predictable problem, dysfunction. Forget drug, alcohol, just dysfunction, whatever it is. I mean, that's why when first responders, they're called responders, because they respond to the commonality of the situations they find themselves in. So, yeah, I want people to understand that by doing this, if we let go of the outcome, we all want it to work, that's a given, but we let go of it because it's not ours to own. And if we've done everything we're supposed to do in the best way it can be done, then we've done a good thing. And, 9 out of 10 times, I mean, we had a 90% chance based on 32 years of experience, it's going to go well. It'd be like if there's one cloud in the sky, are you going to not go out because you're afraid it's going to rain? It's like, no, you're going to go out and go play. And this is the same thing. Just stay optimistic, stay hopeful. And, I tell people, if you're into prayer like I am, man, pray, because we're going into the enemy territory of darkness. And so I really, really, there's a power in that, uniformity, in that I tell people we're like a bunch of Navy SEALs. We are going to go in there. We're going to get that person. No is not an option. We are not coming back empty-handed, period. End of story. And it's like, yeah, they get all charged up, and it's like, it's fun to have that unity going on. So it's pretty special to help people know that by doing this, you won't feel guilty. You will have done all you can do. If they say no, or if they die prematurely, you will have grief. There's no doubt about it. But we can get through grief. You carry guilt with you the rest of your life. You're taking that to the grave. So we're a remedy for guilt, not necessarily for grief.
What percentage of people would you say call you and then go through with an intervention? Because I'm sure your phone rings a lot more than interventions you actually get a chance to do.
Oh, just by a long shot. And that's one of my frustrations, is that when most people don't hire us because they lack funding, and so what we on average, every 5th to 8th phone call turns into an intervention. We typically on a normal year would get maybe between 400 to 500 calls a year is what we tend to get. So it's a pretty, it once a day. I mean, basically that's, 1 to 2, 1.5 times a day is what that average is. So it's not like the phones are ringing off the hook. I wish it was, but because again, I just want to educate. And if you want to hire us, great. If you don't, we get it. We're not territorial at all.
Yeah, well, I know you have a very content-rich website, so people, after you get done watching this interview, go check out carefrontations.com, and you can see what they offer there for a lot of resources out there. But let's go. I want to go back to this term of like bottom line, because it has a lot to do with kind of the progression of what we're talking about. Where people are like, well, you know what? My bottom line is if they don't go out the door in a trash bag and see you later.
Yeah.
So let's talk about bottom line.
So unfortunately, a lot of times when people call me, they've already implemented their bottom line. I've kicked them out, or I've said I'm done. They become very, fatalistic or catastrophic in their new stance, so to speak, because they're so tired, they're frustrated, they're angry, and I understand that. But even if they've put a boundary down or a bottom line, we can still do an intervention. And so our style of redefined boundaries is what we like to really call them, is that first understand that if your loved one says no, you're not going to be rejecting them by putting a boundary in place. The reality is if they say no, they're actually rejecting you. They're saying you're not enough for me, which really flies in the face that people say, oh, you've got to do it for yourself. You've got to be the reason to go. And I say, no, that's not true. There's a partial truth to that, but we've taken it as a society as a whole truth. And so I say, let's find out if we can matter to them enough to where they'll go, because they're not healthy enough to be the reason. As they begin to get healthy, they'll be part of the reason, but they'll never be the whole reason. I think that we all need people in our life that motivate us to do what we know to be right, healthy, whatever term we want to use. So what we tell families is if they say no, and this varies as well, because if you're a spouse and you rely on your spouse's income and you got nowhere to go, you're not going to say you're out of here, I'm out of here, because now you're on the streets, right? But we like to make it very clear that we're not okay with this unhealthy behavior. Never have been, never will be. And so if all things were perfect, I would say we're going to put relationship on hold. We're going to temporarily not initiate any contact or support. Now, people have to understand that doesn't mean that if the phone rings, we pick it up. And I tell, pick it up with enthusiasm. I'm so glad you called, Rob. Are you calling me to take you to treatment? That's all I want to know, because really there's nothing to talk about other than that. And if they don't say a resounding yes, you say, well, I love you. Please call me when you're ready, and you hang the phone up. Once a day, you do that. One text you return a day, one email a day. And see, the loved one who didn't go, they know who the weak link is in the family system. They're going to work that person to see if you really meant it. And that's why the preparation is so vitally, vitally important. Often, I feel like I'm doing an intervention at the preparation for the enabling participants. And we enable out of love, we enable out of ignorance, and we enable out of fear. And that's why I like to educate. It's like, if you know the facts and you believe what I'm telling you, and you do everything I tell you to do, there's a 100% guarantee you're going to be fine. If you deviate from that, just like your person you want to get help, if they deviate from what they're being told to do, the chances go down that you'll be okay. This is the one major medical illness for both the client or the patient and the family. If you do 100% of what you're told, you will be fine. Pretty good odds.
Yeah, there's some good relief there. And talk to the family member right now that, okay, loved one agrees to go to treatment. They're, one of your great success stories, and they go to a facility, whatever type facility that looks like, that, because I know you vet them, you don't just send them anywhere. You have great relationships with people around the country. So They go to treatment. Now the family's at home. Let's talk about what kind of work can the family look at doing while their loved one is going to learn how to not use substances in their life.
Well, I think there's so much to do out there, from reading a good book on whether it's codependency, enabling, or boundaries or grief, or whatever your situation is. There's a book out there that you can gain some insight and new perspective on. Number one. Number two, most decent programs will have a family program. Now, even the best programs out there, I still think they lack to some degree in the family component, and it's only because it's not a money making piece. You invite families to come. You have staff that facilitate education, maybe some therapy time, and there's no extra charge for that. So it's eating at the profit is what it's doing. And so I understand that, but I believe that if you can really help the family go through a combination, educational and experiential process, they'll be better served to navigate through some of those troubled waters that lie ahead. And so that we put together a family program 9 years ago called Reverse Carefrontations, because it's a paradigm shift. And so it's just so important that the families have a healthy voice, that they're able to put closure to the past. Metaphorically, I say you've got to clean your plate as your loved one's cleaning their plate, so that you can have a clean plate, put new things on it. So that's just so important. And so it's none of us are light switches. We can't turn ourselves on and off. We've got to work through our stuff. So it's a process. It takes time. And if a family's willing, there's plenty of things out there, for them.
Yeah, you're kind of in the business too of leaving a new legacy, right? Because a lot of people talk about the trickle down effect of addiction in a family system,
Mm-hmm.
and then they have a chance to break that. So I don't know, it just kind of came to me, like, talk about what legacy can look like.
I'm reminded of a family I'd intervened on. He was a lawyer, really smart, super neat family, just a quality family, and he was so pleasant. I mean, halfway through the intervention, he's like, can you just tell me where you want me to go, and I'm all in, kind of a thing. And I told him, I said, well, I'm so glad that you're tracking with us, but today's not totally about you. So, and he's like, oh, so we wanted to read the rest of our letters, which we did. Well, 15 years later, his grandson needed help, and he was able to participate in that intervention. So full circle. I'm doing an intervention this weekend, and one of the participants, he called me and he said, I have participated in 2 interventions with you 20 years ago, and I'm so glad that you're still doing what you're doing. And so, the legacy, I often say, it's like, I want to take the root of addiction out of this family system, so that way the next generation, the generation after that, won't have to deal with this terrible, terrible problem. And that's why the education is so important, to continue till we're gone. If I had diabetes or heart disease, I would tell my kids, my grandkids, be careful. This runs in the family. So we're definitely, changing legacy for sure. It's pretty fun to do that.
And I'm glad you are. So what's it like to work with your wife, Jenny? What does that dynamics look like?
It's fun first and foremost, because we both get each other. We are definitely different in how we think, how we speak, how we, our personalities are different, but we complement one another. She's really helped me to be way more patient. She's helped me to be more creative, because I'm very much a black and white thinker. I'm very systems driven. That's how I think. That's how I live my life. And she's very creative, and she's always got a lot of projects going at one time, which would, drive me crazy. I'd have to start one, finish it, and go to the next. And so I've learned so much from her, just to slow it down, and to allow the process to kind of unfold. And what's interesting too is, like, when the phone rings, we will look at each other, you got it, I got it, whatever. And, or Jewel, our assistant, we got it. And it seems like we always pick up the phone with who we're supposed to. It's like, it's just really interesting how that unfolds. So she's an amazing, professional interrupter. I often don't like the word intervention. I like the word interrupter.
Yeah.
It's like she's great at that. She's a little bulldog. I mean, sometimes she gets too intense. I mean, there's times, I remember we were in Tennessee. We're at literally a junkyard. A husband and a wife were intervening on, and she just kept pressing and pressing. And I could see this person was getting irritated, and I don't know what this guy's got, guns or anywhere. And I literally had to say, okay, stop, Jenny, back down a little bit. Let's just let this thing go. It's okay. We don't have to keep pressing in. So she's soft spirited. She's sweet. She's beautiful. But I'll tell you what, man, she'll not give up. She just will not give up. So she's fun to work with. We met and married in 20 days, 34 years ago. This month is our anniversary month. And we have, grown up together, and we're still, passionately in love, and we're very well suited for each other. So we're definitely in it for life.
There you go. Divine intervention, divine relationship. That's incredible. How do people find you guys? Like, what's the best way someone listening or watching right now says, hey, you know what? I need to call them right now.
So you can, call our toll-free number. It's 844-588-3267. Our website, Carefrontations, long made up word, CAREFRONTATIONS.com is another good way. We rarely, miss a call. We're on, literally 24/7. We will pick the phone up and talk to people. And I think it's important to note too that, again, we're not territorial. We're not trying to sell you anything. It's like, we can be a voice of reason in the middle of your chaos. And whether we get to help you, I mean, we'd be privileged to help you. We would be honored to help you. But if it's not a right fit, or you don't have the resources, it's okay. We're still going to spend as much time with you as we would anybody. People say, how much is it? And it's like, well, we'll get to that. It's not important right now. I mean, it's important, but that's not what will keep me on the phone with you. So also, there's a lot of treatment programs that know of us. So we get a lot of referrals from different treatment programs. SAMHSA, we get referrals from. Focus on the Family, we've got referrals from therapists. I mean, it's just, it's kind of interesting. Like, we always ask, where'd you get our number? It's like, well, I don't know that person. Because I like to say thank you. I like to call people back and say, I just want you to know that, Jerry called and really appreciate it, and we'll let you know how it turns out, kind of a thing. So it's we're really appreciative, because I can't make the phone ring, and I have not spent a ton of money on SEO and the whole internet thing. I mean, we probably should, but I haven't. We've kind of flown under the radar this whole 32 years. We don't self promote a whole lot. We're into relationships.
Yeah, well, I know there's a lot of angels and people looking out for you guys and guiding people to you for sure. What's kind of a call to action you can give to people that are listening or watching right now?
I would just say, feel the apprehension or the nervousness or even the fear, and just make that call regardless. I liken it to when, like I was for me, it was called junior high. It's middle school now for everybody, but it was like, oh, I was in a relationship and I knew it wasn't working. I had to break up and I stressed over it for 2 weeks. And when I finally did it, it's like, well, that was pretty easy. Why didn't I do that 2 weeks ago? And that's been my life experience. It's like our intuition, our spirit, it speaks to us. And if we feel a sense to make a call, to do something, I say honor it, be obedient to it, if you will, and make that phone call. I think most everybody in this industry is pretty caring, and they'll give you the time. They will give you the time of day. And so just keep moving forward. I mean, I know God can drive a BART car, he can do anything, but I think he wants us to be moving, for things to open up.
Yeah, let's get moving, because I heard you on a radio show that Benji hooked me up with, and I was like, man, I want to reach out to that guy and connect with him. And so I interviewed you for my podcast show a while back, and just thought you'd be a great blessing on this Art of Intervention Project Summit that we're doing to really give people those valuable tools and everything, you guys. So make sure you check back in with Scott and his wife, Jenny, if you guys need some help, know someone that needs help.
And I want to just throw one thing out there too.
Yeah.
It goes to the hundreds of people who can't afford our services. For 2 years now, Jenny and I and Joel and Corey, we've been developing what we call Intervention in a Box. It is an online course, and it is for those folks who can't afford our boots on the ground. And it allows people to do maybe a softer intervention. They can do a tougher one too, but it'll give people the opportunity to put a healthy intervention together. It's a step-by-step course. It's a fraction of the cost of intervention. This right now we've got a promotion going on, so it's half price. It's normally $14.99, and so it's half price right now. And so I want to just check it out. You'll see it on our website. And it's a good product. We're really excited about people getting their hands on that.
Yeah, that is great. That is a great thing to let the audience know about too. And you also mentioned on your website you have a free download or something you can do for the kind of a checklist of what does an intervention actually look like, right?
Yeah, well, it's not so much what it looks like. It's just all the steps that are necessary to put one together. And so we also have a free download on the 3 mistakes most people make when planning an intervention, because you think about the life. I mean, this is a life and death situation for most people. I mean, granted, most people aren't going to die tomorrow, but ultimately it will cut their life short, compromise relationships, so on and so forth. And I think we really need to be armed with accurate information. There's a lot of misinformation out there. There's a lot of there's a lot of people who are working the phones, for treatment programs, and they don't really understand the intervention. They don't understand the value of it. And I get it. They're trying to, get people to come into their program who wouldn't. But there's so much information out there. It's like trying to find a needle in a haystack. Wow. And I really feel for people in need, because we've been there. We've I put my sister in treatment, my daughter in treatment, my son-in-law, my daughter-in-law. I lost my mom. I lost my nephew, and Jenny and I are in recovery. So, we get the people who are calling.
It's insane. I got sober 18 years ago, and I feel like I missed out by not having an intervention done on me. But mine was definitely a divine intervention for people who actually know my story. And I like how you queued up a phone call when you said the word phone earlier, like a couple minutes, like 30 seconds ago. There was a little phone ring in the background. That was really cool.
Did you like that? Yeah.
You are tuned in to a higher power. That is for darn sure.
That's so good.
But man, I appreciate your friendship, being a colleague and professional in the industry, and just thanks for blessing people here at the Art of Intervention Project Online Summit. So just thanks a bunch, and I hope you have an amazing rest of your day. And say hi to Jenny for me.
I will, Rob. Thanks for doing what you do too. You're a pretty amazing man too. So blessings back at you.
You got it. We'll talk soon.
All right, brother.